So we have a conversation coming. We told you it's focused on the security of children. The number of incidents we can record from Takoradi, right from Kasoa, and then even the latest we're having from up north in Tamale as well. But what do we have to say about security of children? We know that the Children's Act inherently, as well as even the Constitution says, well, everybody's rights need to be protected. Security is needed. Why do we have children and their insecurity becoming a problem? And let me just introduce our relevant panelists and for this discussion to go on. I have a former minister for gender, children's protection. No, is it gender, women and children's protection? Or is it women?
Gender, children and social protection.
So gender, children and social protection. Nana Oyebanfoado, also a legal practitioner as well. Good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, Roland. How are you doing?
I'm well, I'm
Great.
well. And then I have security consultant, an expert, helps us for various discussions right here on the channel, TV3. Richard Kumado, how are you?
Thank you, Roland.
Great. And then, of course, Christian Malmhesi, doesn't need any introduction on the channel as well. Lawyer.
Thanks for having me.
All right, nice meeting you as well. But we have Chris Amwako. Okay, so that's Chris Amwako. I nearly said Christiana. Mr. Amwako, good morning to you. Our correspondent up north. Good morning. How are you? Okay, so he'll be joining us. We'll have some discussion on the subject. He brought us the story, and it's the latest. Chris.
Good morning.
Okay. Tell us the latest incident that happened, where exactly it happened, and why it has generated a lot of public debate up north concerning the children that were missing.
Yes, so Roland, the incident happened at Kakwayili, a suburb of Tamale. And on the 22nd of June, some two children were reportedly missing. And after 3 days of unsuccessful search, the family reported the matter to the Tamale police, and the police commenced investigations into the matter. On Saturday, the youth of the community besieged the house of one Malam Mahadi, and the reason is that after asking neighbors, they were told that the children were last seen around Malam Mahadi's house. That was the information that they got. And so they went to the house to inquire from Malam Mahadi because they heard that the children were last seen around his house. And he said that he didn't know anything about the whereabouts of the children. And so they were invited to the Kakwayili Chief's palace. When they got there, he was asked again if he knew something about the missing children. He vehemently denied that he didn't know anything about the missing children. So they left there. And so the search continued. And there was an Opel car abandoned and parked behind Malam Mahadi's house. And so because the bodies of the children were decomposing, the place began to smell bad. And so the residents went to look into the car, and they found out that the two children were in the car and they were dead. And so an alarm was raised, and the police and the military were invited. So as we speak, the car, that Opel car that the bodies were found in, has been towed to the police headquarters in Tamale, and the children are also, they were deposited at the Tamale Teaching Hospital morgue. The suspect, Malam Mahadi, was arrested, and we understand that after arrest, he was granted bail, and he was on a local radio station in Tamale the next day. That was on Sunday. But as it stands now, we are told that he's in police custody again.
All right. So it means investigations are ongoing. The security of children a big deal up north, and why?
Yes, it's a big deal because everybody, like up north here, it's like we operate the extended family system. Every body has a right in the upkeep of the neighbor's child, or let me say, also because of the religion that is dominant here in the north, because the Islamic religion states that everyone is the other's helper. And so children can leave their home, go to the next house, they play throughout the day. Sometimes they even sleep in that house, and the owner has to go and inform the father of the children that, oh, your children are in my house and all those things. And these children, because of the poverty levels, most of them walk to school by themselves. After school, most of them also try to do certain things to find food for themselves. And so, for instance, listening to the wife of Mala Mahadi, she says that the children always pass to school and they enter her house and she gives them food and money to go to school. And so that is how children live around this area.
All right. Okay. Christopher Mwakun, thank you very much for this update. And Bampo Ado, at the end of the day, we know that you have been in office before, so you have oversight, supervision for policy, not only the formulation side, but also implementation. You also tend to do a lot of engagement with civil society, the rest of the stakeholders. What do you think has been the general missing link when it comes to having a special focus as a state or a country when it comes to the security and rights of children?
Okay, with respect to the security and rights of children, especially with respect to missing children, it does not seem like we have a national framework that addresses the issue of missing children, which issue comes with urbanization, growing urbanization, and also growing migration from the rural to the urban areas. And so looking at the whole ecosystem, looking at social services, looking at child protection, or even the Department of Children under the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, looking at security, the security agencies or the Ghana Police Service, it does not seem like we have a framework, institutional framework from the national to the district level that addresses the issue of missing children, or specifically child protection in terms of missing children. And then that also, we don't have a strategic framework that will also address. So for instance, we don't even have data. Like in coming to this program, I tried to search. So when you go onto the website of the Ghana Police Service, I don't know whether there's a specific unit. We know we have the trafficking unit, but we don't even have data. So how many children got missing? Go to UK websites, go to US websites. You'll know that in UK, 200,000 people got missing. We now have an organization also called Missing Ghana. So that is where I was able to get some data that between 2021 and 2023, 610 persons got missing, and most of them were children. So in terms of data, we don't know. And then even the dynamics, how do the children get missing? Is it that when they are on their way to school or what? So we are not even able to know exactly how the children get missing, to even know what programs we can put in place. So even churches, do they have policies? Schools, has Ghana Education Service come up with a policy that would be implemented in all schools with respect to child safety?
Yeah.
So these are the gaps I see.
All right. Mr. Kumado, do we have a specific issue about the circumstances that lead to the numbers of missing children or the incidents? Or it is just that because children are in that infantile stage of perhaps not knowing where they are and what their bearing should be, that's why we tend to have some of these incidentals when it comes to their security as well?
No, definitely. Community helps the police to be able to address some of these issues. And just like former minister said, there has been a disjointed approach to this whole finding out the solutions to why children are getting missing. To the extent that the numbers keep going up, then we can definitely say it's a public safety, it has public safety concerns. And I think over the years, when the human trafficking unit was on top and they were doing the job properly as it's supposed to be done, the collaborative nature helps, whether they are women that got missing, whether they are children that got missing, whether they are men. You could have some standardization in terms of data, in terms of the locations, and in terms of what really happened. As it is today, it might be a conjecture unless the police could come out with the relatives on the ground that this is what they have done and these were the outcomes for which the children got missing. But from where I sit, and having done this job for many years, I could say that the police will have to be a bit more progressive within the space. Then again, when it comes to children getting missing, and why it looks a little bit, there are disparities in the answers we are getting. The first one, and the very first and the last one we had was the Takoradi missing girls. Yeah. Let's ask ourselves whether did we really have a closure to that issue? Who are the people who work on the issue? Have they put up a docket where young investigators could learn from some of those things? Yeah. It's also the case of which Nana Oye, former Minister of Gender, said cosmopolitan is becoming part of our nature. And now I'm thinking the police will have to train people, specialize in some of these cases. It's the lack of speciality that is also leading to where we are today. Okay. Is there a framework that is needed? Because I know that we have the Children's Act. Yeah. But then it just deals with making sure the rights of children perhaps are upheld. But when it comes to the security of the children within the realities of what we're talking about, there seem to be gaps. Can we then do the advocacy at your level in terms of you, the lawyers, the legislators, the formulators, etc., civil society, so that perhaps we can have, is there an amendment or specific regulations or laws?
Yes, so when you look at the Children's Act deals with, I see it as, it deals with two limbs. First with the rights, and the overriding thing is the welfare. So the court is always interested in establishing who, even with parents where they are fighting over custody, the court would always want to satisfy its mind whether or not either of the two or which of the two will satisfy best the welfare of the children. Now, beyond that, the Act also makes it clear that the district assemblies also has a role, or the decentralized system has a role, or the local governance system has a role in promoting the agenda protection of children. We are not seeing much of these things. Again, if you look at the Domestic Violence Act, it also provides that children or victims in that regard, there should be the establishment of a fund. Now, the objectives of that particular fund is, number one, to support the children, the victims, and train them. Also to help with, to rescue them in such situations, and subsequently reintegration into society or shelter schemes. Now, the question to ask ourselves is, how are these things being implemented? And further on in the Act, it also creates how such a fund could be supported. As to whether the commitment of government in terms of financial resource is so high in making sure that these things are realized is for us to know. Because just as my senior said, when she was coming, she was trying to research to know the stats and get all of these things. But
scavenging for information.
Yes, we are bereft of information. That tells you that indeed there exist gaps which gives room for some of these things to come up. Okay.
At the end of the day, for example, when I was doing my research, there was a database for FBI, a database even for the various states police, so you can have for New York, for etc. They even have database for missing children from the 60s, some who even emerged with in foster homes, and their parents even didn't know within the community that they were still alive, etc. So some could stray, not necessarily because somebody had undertaken an event or an omission on them. At the end of the day, where should the commitment be coming from? The legislature, where ideally, if you compare to the US, they do more pressure, put pressure on the central government for that, or the police, or from civil society?
The commitment, as we sit, should come from government. Perhaps because of the advent of social media, we are now regularly getting reports. So obviously, some form of awareness has been created. And so with social media, on daily basis, you get reports of missing persons. For instance, for us, the Tema West Women Organizer is missing since the 12th of June. Wow. The Tema West Women Organizer for the NDC is missing. Paulina Lemisi, Tema West Women Organizer, since the 12th of June. She's missing. She hasn't been found. So we're appealing to the general public. And like I said, if there had been a study, or the Ghana Police Service had provided us with information on the patterns. For instance, the UK can tell you that 2/3 of those missing are children. And they can tell you that 25% of the missing children are abused, or harm is either sexually abused or harm is they are harmed. Over here, we have the dynamics with the spiritual aspect, where people claim that the body parts are used for spiritual purposes. So what exactly is the picture? So government has to now come up with some information. Have we reached a time where, like US and UK, they have a whole bureau, maybe under the Ghana Police Service, that specifically devotes itself to addressing issues relating to missing persons, providing regular information, and creating awareness, the churches, the schools, and other public places. This is what children should do. This is how churches should protect. This is what schools should do. Have we reached a stage? Because in 1997, 1998, under IGP Peter Namfuri, as a government and as a state, we realized that there was a need to create the Women and Juvenile Unit to address gender-based violence against women and children. So at this point in time, as a state, Ghana has to take that decision to create an institution and to create a framework to address the issue of missing children and even missing adults. I think with 600 people missing, Ghana needs to create
and the 600 missing children are the numbers we have on record.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, Mr. Komado, when it comes to sanitizing and then spearheading this, who has to do that?
No, definitely government and government agencies. What we used to do previously is that under the CID block, they have what they call the Anti-Human Trafficking Unit. Many of the works we did at the Anti-Human Trafficking Unit, kudos to Auntie Nanoye, the minister, but then I used to run to her office. I was just telling her before we came in.
You're giving her pressure?
Yes. Then she helped, and it was a coordinated effort. The head of the unit by then was Patience Quay, who then worked at the BNI for many years when I was there. Then she moved to the Ghana Police Service. With international donors and support, she established units across the whole country. Then we took it to immigration. Immigration has units, the migration unit, headed by Madame Judith Jokutu. Then you have a lawyer as the minister. Then you have legal resource persons where you have Amaliba, Edward Amuzu. You remember those your people?
Just let me check. We even created desks at Kotoka International Airport.
Hey.
Yes,
exactly.
And also at the Aflao border.
The borders.
We created the desk together with
Exactly.
Patience Square Human Trafficking
Exactly. So,
to track not only children, but adults being abducted and trafficked. We actually did that.
And when she was doing it with the international support, there were successes because we were doing the investigations, we were tracking and creating the trends so that you could have a pattern. So if she asked for data, the data could be sent to her. And we were going to court and they were getting prosecutions because normally what happens is that when it comes to crimes such as the one we are talking about, non-punishable of offenses will always rationalize bad behavior and promote antisocial tendencies in society. Number two, inconclusive investigations will always make sure that the criminals will always dominate the police. I think ever since she left the anti-human trafficking unit, Madam Jokoto left the immigration, I think we will need to go back and find out what has been the efficiency of what they do because with the coordinated approach with the faith-based organizations, the civil society, Child Rights,
Child Rights International.
Yeah.
Bright Appear, very
Bright
instrumental.
Appear, yes.
Has been since...
exactly, he and his brother, then Madam Dankwa, many of those guys came into the framework and he helped. I think resources must be the problem for many of the private sector organizations and government must come to their aid.
Lawyer, at the end of the day, do we need to create specialized decks where if people need some level of legal, maybe explanation or assistance, we can have certain recourse to when it comes to the general rights and abuse? Because these are also rights issues regarding the population group we're talking about.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Domestic Violence Act, it's one superb act. In as much as matters can proceed in a criminal sense, it can also proceed in the civil sense. And applications could come to the court by origination motion and on all of that in respect of a child or a victim who has suffered in one way or the other to deal with it. I would also pray on my colleagues that we should take it as a penchant for pro bono cases in respect of, because some of these victims will not have the necessary resources to pay for the legal hours of lawyers. And when it happens like that, would write such people off. You also have the situations where some of these children suffer sexual offenses. And you know, sexual offense is a matter of felony. And unfortunately, you have some of these matters, that are settled at the police stations. Now, the Court Act promotes reconciliation both in civil and criminal matters, so to avoid congestion at the courts and all of that, and also to create that reconciliation between parties. But when it comes to matters of felony, the police cannot take that decision
and be negotiating.
Yes, and negotiate that, oh, let's give the victim 10,000 or that kind of thing. Settle it on their own. It is never right. And when that happens, the victim suffers the more because it comes with psychological issues, will not be addressed with, and all of that. And then let me leave you to continue.
So as we ended the discussion, what would we want to see? We're all talking as stakeholders because you are here, and people will formally say you're a politician, but at the end of the day, even before you entered mainstream politics, you were a strong advocate. I remember back in the you had done your embossed T-shirts or printed T-shirts and be advocating for many things. What would you want to see done in terms of creating the access for information to flow?
Okay,
ensure
I think the first thing is for government to consider creating that institution or a special desk. For now, a special desk to specifically address missing children and provide information to the public so that we know what to tell our children as they walk from the house to the school. Also, as a matter of corporate social responsibility, the media, especially TV, social media, bloggers, and also the radio, please provide a platform to give information to the public about the people who are missing, which district, where did they get missing. For now, as a stopgap, we are pleading with the media houses to, through their corporate social responsibility, place adverts on the missing persons so that if anybody has information, the person will give information and these people will be found. But critically, Ghana Police Service, Government of Ghana, create a desk and start getting information out. Where are the hotspots? Under what circumstances do children get missing? Is it when they are walking to school? Is it when they are in church? So these two interventions will greatly help to address the system. Then we can have a long-term strategic plan.
Thank you very much. I know the time has been very short, but thank you for making your way through the studios as well. We're very happy as well.
You.
And Nana Oye Bampoado, legal practitioner, former minister for gender, children and social protection. I got it right this time.
Yes.
I'm okay, right?
Yeah.
And then Richard Kumado is a regular on the channel across various shows, security consultant and expert, helping us do all the discussion when it comes to security issues as well. Christian Lebridge, Mount Hesse, legal practitioner. What's your chamber, you call it?
ECAM Law Consult.
ECAM Law Consult,
yes.
certainly.
Airport.
I think you're just around your airport.
Yes, airport residential.
Charlie, if you're not rich, you can't be at airport. Thank you very much, Christian.